Hello, my name is Stephen Camp, and I'm a board member with the Alberta Hate Crimes Committee. Today, we're going to discuss why hate crime is a special category of criminality that needs to be treated differently with a robust and prompt response by first responders, the courts, victim services, government, and civil society organizations. Hate crime is unique. Research demonstrates that the motivations underpinning the offenses add intense trauma to individual victims and their community. Take note of what hate crimes targets, the very essence of who a person is, their intrinsic, fundamental, and individual identity, a permanent feature of the person and their community. Imagine traveling to your place of work, worship, play, or school, and knowing that just being yourself can attract violence. There is widespread recognition that the impact of hate crime on individuals and the community are significant, and indeed more harmful than non-hate motivated crimes. International empirical evidence continues to portray the harms hate crimes inflict on the individual and the community. First, we will talk about individual impact. When a person is victimized by hate crime, the evidence illustrates an intense emotional response. Some examples are suspicion of others, distrust, the constant feeling of threat, and that it will happen again. Subsequently, there is a need to increase personal security and avoid areas at certain times. They feel fear, anxiety, vulnerability. They sometimes go through social withdrawal and avoidance of public spaces. They may conceal or reject their identity. Furthermore, they will experience emotions such as depression, post-traumatic stress, suicidal ideation, anger, a feeling of injustice, denial, shame, self-blame, the perception that their quality of life has worsened, and they occasionally have a desire to retaliate.
Hi, my name is Gurpreet and I'm here to talk about how hate crime affects someone as an individual who has been affected by hate crimes. Hate crime kind of affects especially a marginalized individual or an individual who comes from a diverse background, whether it's race, ethnicity, gender, sexual identity, disability. It can affect you in a variety of ways. In our city of Edmonton, a lot of women who wear the hijab, who are Black Muslim women, have experienced what I would consider one of the worst kind of hate crimes, which is physical assault. But for me, it kind of affects me on a more day-to-day basis. It's just the microaggressions and things like that. But just witnessing other women of color, women who look like me, seeing it on the news, seeing it on social media all the time, it is something that plays on a recurring loop in the back of my mind every single time I go into public, every single time I wear something that shows of what religion I am, or something that shows that I'm different from the norm or the blank white canvas that people assume society is. Just constantly seeing women who look like me and people who look like me being targeted for just existing as who they are and something that they can't change. It makes me think of what can I even do as a woman of color? What can I do as a community member to help? But I still watch it happen every single day. Thank you for listening to my experience with hate and how I view it in my day-to-day life. If there's one thing that I can leave you with is to educate yourself on how hate affects those in your community and listen to those that it directly affects. Thank you.
My name is Chevi Rabbit, and I'm a hate crimes awareness advocate, a transgender advocate, gender diversity, and I guess a social advocate. Through compounded trauma from being victimized as a hate crime victim on multiple occasions, I got anxiety from the whole thing. I think social anxiety. The only way I can think of it is if you have a lens of like the world loves you, the world thinks you're amazing, and then suddenly that lens got shifted to, it comes a lens of fear, and then it gets compounded over time. So I think on an individual level, it has created anxiety for me. And that's been the biggest struggle, I think, was overcoming anxiety issues and fear. And those are things that I wasn't raised with and wasn't really aware of, like how it can actually physically impact you. part of our call to action is to be kinder and educate ourselves on the differences that make Canada unique, make Alberta a unique place, and that's educating ourselves on the differences, but also thank you for the time for learning about my lived experience and what I've gone through.
What further distinguishes hate crime from other types is their community impact. Community members may not be directly targeted. However, they understand that the individual was victimized because of their community affiliation. It is a message of hate, and consequently, hate crimes terrorize communities. The reach and impact extend beyond the individual, disseminating outward with fear that they are next. This manifests psychological distress, decreased feelings of safety and security, and the implicit warning that the community is not wanted. Hate crimes elicit collective emotions such as clinical post-traumatic stress disorder, fear, concern for family, apprehension to go out, while simultaneously restricting guaranteed and fundamental freedoms of association and movement. The community suffers from disturbing thoughts, detachment, anger, and sadness, avoidance of public places, and vulnerability. These are accompanied by emotions such as shock, feelings of inferiority, insubordination, and behavioral changes. Moreover, hate crimes threaten peaceful coexistence and can lead to community conflict on a broader scale.
In Edmonton, my community was faced with a series of hate crimes throughout the summer. The whole process of first experiencing the hate crime, then going to report the hate crime, then realizing that our report didn't actually make it to the hate crimes unit and having to go in again and having to explain again to the officers that were present that this is a hate crime, this is a hateful thing that has happened to our community was exhausting. What was even more exhausting that we didn't anticipate is that asking our community, our wider community for support and asking for answers and asking to find the perpetrator led to more exhaustion because we had to talk to every single news outlet that would come and interview us. Just having to explain why something is hateful to someone that we're supposed to feel comfortable reporting it to, that's what really stayed with us, the people that were directly involved with the situation. But for our larger community, once they heard the news about what had happened, it was almost like a ripple effect. You can almost feel the community tensing up, asking questions, how can we help, what can we do? Well, what are the authorities doing about it? What can we possibly do? Are there any laws? Are there anything that we as individuals can do to help keep our community and our members safe? And again, our options are very limited, especially when the places that we're reporting to don't understand how hate affects a community and how it can affect the communities that are so close together that when one of us is affected, the whole community feels the shockwaves of that. When a community goes through an incident like this or a crime like this, it's important to listen to them. It's important to listen and support them. How can I support? What can I do to make this situation better for you? And what can I do to help your community heal? I think that's where the support really lacks, and that's something that we need to be better on.
The effect hate has on my community is profound. Hate reverberates right through the community. When a member of a minority community gets assaulted, like what happened to me back in 2012 when I was a university student, I think it sends a shockwave throughout the community because they think, what if that could be me? What if it could be my family member? What it could be my brother, my sister, my sibling, my aunt, my uncle, because whoever is LGBTQ in your family, you think, what if that happens to my family for expressing their authentic self? I was raised not only loved, but from a woman who broke intergenerational trauma, and I learned about residential school history through University of Alberta, and I think when I got assaulted, it not only disrupted my life, but it disrupted the plans that my family had for me and the investment they had.
In addition to terrorizing society and psychologically damaging individuals, hate crimes contradict and thus undermine statutes defending Canada's core values. Hate crimes attack the tenets of equality, inclusion, and Canadian democratic ideals. They oppress communities, erode principles that promote an open and pluralistic society. Hate crimes assail freedom, marginalize human rights, erode multiculturalism, subjugates equality, removes dignity, and emboldens hate mongers. In responding to individuals victimized by hate crime, it is important to understand these concepts and provide emotional and psychological support, acknowledgement, sensitivity, empathy, respect, validation, and a trusting environment to disclose. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and better understand the impacts of hate.